Brodes Media.
Today, I want to assess Vic Fangio's press conference and the OTAs that went down on Tuesday afternoon, some field stuff as well, because it's about time we check in on the defending Super Bowl champions. And I love listening to Vic Fangio because he's a no-nonsense type of dude. He's no bullshit. He's not just going to give you what you want to hear. He's going to be honest. His assessment is going to be authentic, and he's going to keep it 100. If you are not living up to the standard, you will most likely hear something that you don't like coming from his mouth and straight to the reporters' phones when they're recording him. And then you got to live with the consequences until you prove your greatness. Until you show up to camp and you dominate and play the way that you're supposed to play. So when he speaks, I listen. Because it's not coach speak. There's realness in his answers, and it's telling on where certain guys fall in the depth chart currently, with a lot of time for that to change. It's the early stage here. But the early stage matters. When you are a team that needs to attack with the right mindset following a Super Bowl, knowing it is rare and hard to keep up that pace. It starts now. It doesn't start 3 weeks from now. Hell, it started back at the draft. And I loved what they did with Jahad Campbell and Makuba, so I checked those boxes. But I'm keeping my eyes on exactly the way they move from top to bottom. I'm already in love with what I'm hearing about the way Jalen Hurts is throwing the football. See, what I love about Jalen, and I wasn't going to start here, but here we go. He hears it all. He can't throw. He's not a good passer. He's not this. He's not that. Yet this man is throwing dimes like it's the Super Bowl to Dallas Goedert in camp, dropping a dime, dropping the ball right in the bucket. Boom! Explosive play! To the point where everybody who was covering the practice said, yeah, I'll tell you what the biggest takeaway was. My God. Is Jalen throwing daggers? That's where his mentality is. To prove everybody wrong. He still has that aggravation that sits in his bone marrow. Because even after winning a Super Bowl MVP by airing out the ball, by putting up 50 plus on the Washington Commanders in the NFC Championship game, there's still a lot of noise about what he can't do. And that's a man on a mission. And he sets the tone, and everybody follows, which is amazing. But what I really wanted to begin with was Jordan Davis, because I have been, over the last 2 weeks, very critical on what they project him to be. And I just don't know if it's in his skill set to be a pass rusher, but they are looking at it differently. And I hope to God I'm wrong. I want him to be a 3-down type of guy. But remember, what was the knock coming out of Georgia? There's so much talent. It wasn't the knock. It was sort of the excuse that we built on why he wasn't playing as many snaps as we would like him to coming out of college, getting drafted high in the first round. It was, there's so many 5-star recruits. They need to mix in all of this phenomenal talent. So, of course, someone's going to have to pay the price because of their fantastic rotation. Where the truth was, he just wasn't physically in the right space and mentally in the right space. And it has taken him a couple of years to kind of get to where he needs to be. But listening to Vic, who will not just praise him to praise him, who will only keep it 100 and tell you exactly the real truth on where these current guys stand. He's like, yeah, no, this guy is in the best shape he's ever been in as an Eagle. This guy is putting in the work. Jordan Davis, let's go. And I'm almost wondering now, do I need to recalibrate? Do I need to reset? Do I need to go into this going hype on the potential Jordan Davis breakout year and be more of an accomplished dog? And I'm thinking maybe. I mean, that's how much value I put into Vic Fangio's assessment on these guys. And then also hearing Jordan Davis go into detail about how he has a word this season to define his attitude, and it's discipline. Now, everybody has their own story. Everybody has sort of their own path, and not everybody takes steps properly. And, you talk about maybe staying in shape and keeping his body where it needs to be to perform at a high level. And maybe there were bumps and bruises along the way from Jordan Davis. But what I do hear now is this guy has a word to define the way that he's going about his business, and it just seems like he's mentally locked in differently, and then physically, you see some of these video clips of what he's doing on the field. It looks like a different dude. It looks like a different guy. Maybe there's truth to it. And I'm starting to wonder, too, you win a Super Bowl, and you're around the Eagles organization for a long time. And I'm putting myself in the shoes of Jordan Davis here. You see all these other guys get drafted to bumhole organizations like Jacksonville, like Cleveland. You are set up to fail nonstop. But then you get to experience the last few years of Brandon Graham and then how this fan base reacts on his way out. You get to live in an era where Lane Johnson is the best right tackle in football, and you're in the same building and in the same locker room as him for years and years and years. Fletcher Cox, you know what he means to this organization as a defensive tackle. The list goes on and on and on. You just watched Jason Kelce and the reception that he earned. You just won a Super Bowl. It's right there in front of you. You can be a staple to the Philadelphia Eagles if you just lock in differently. If you just attack a little bit more on the physical side, and then that'll naturally and organically, I think, sort of put you in a different headspace and confidence and the right amount of arrogance and cockiness to go dominate. You'll feel good about your game. I think we're in a really good spot with Jordan Davis. We're believing and buying into what they're selling. It's funny, Howie would talk about it, Sirianni would talk about it, but for the most part, I assumed it was just a bunch of coach speak, GM speak. Of course, they're going to hype up their guys. That was a draft pick by Howie. That's one of Nick Sirianni's players that he loves and he believes in, and he wants this to happen, so he's willing it into existence. Then I hear from Vic. No beating around the bush. Dude. And you know what else you got to praise here? If this happens the way I expect it to, and then you think of Quinyon Mitchell coming into his first year, Cooper DeJean coming into his first year, Jalen Carter knowing that he hit a wall his first year. His rookie year, he wasn't able to make it throughout the backstretch because you have to learn what it's like to play in this league against grown men snap after snap after snap. And that's another thing for Jordan Davis real quick that he kind of compiled over the years is what it takes. See, sometimes you don't know. You don't know. You're naive. I played at Georgia, this and that. Not saying he's a bad kid or whatever, but I'm just saying you don't know. But after a few years of experience going the distance, seeing what it takes to play in February, there's just more knowledge to soak in. And then when you go to your offseason regimen and all, it's okay. I now understand exactly where I need to get to. You don't know where you need to get to until you actually get there and see it and feel it. But anyway, Jalen Carter, seeing where his conditioning level was after year one, knowing what it needed to be for year two. Oh, by the way, playing 1 billion snaps, he executes. My point is this. This coaching staff, development-wise, Howie can select the talent. But it goes deeper than just getting great players. You have to know what to do with said great players. You got to know what to do once they kind of set their base, set their foundation. Okay, we know this is his floor. We know this is his ceiling. How do we get him from the floor to the ceiling? Not everybody, again, has the same exact path. You have guys that go down through lows, injuries, returning from injuries, rehab, this, that. Maybe someone just doesn't get it until they get hit with reality. Then they get it. You know what I mean? Like Jordan Davis, for example, there was a debate, and it seemed like we knew which way it was leaning anyway. They were most likely going to pick up that fifth-year option, but there was a debate on if they were going to pick up that fifth-year option. How much of that plays into his attack of wanting to make sure he accomplishes his goal here and being a premier Philadelphia Eagle? Of like, yo, they were questioning me. Now, behind the scenes, I don't know if they were, but you know that most times a fifth-year option comes around for some of your top guns, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. This wasn't a no-brainer. It was a 75er, 80%er, 85%er, maybe even a 90%er. But it wasn't a no-brainer. How much of that fuels him? And if that's what he responds to, and this could go back to Jalen. Jalen walking to the Super Bowl, looking up at the TV screen and seeing what? A graphic between him and Pat Mahomes and the whole panel siding with Kansas City. Okay. God. You don't think these guys look at him and wonder how, why, what? He's interesting, but it's motivating. It's something that really does captivate you. Maybe we got some of that from Jordan Davis. My fifth-year option? Okay. I'll show you what I'm going to do with this fifth-year option. You know what I'm saying?